From the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com, this is the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Podcast. Coming up on the program,
we're going to talk about some activities that you and your family can do that are beneficial to you over the winter months.
Mike Novak with his environmental report.
And we're going to talk with environmentalist Wayne Meador about some great environmental information and his bike trip to raise awareness about the environment across the United States.
All that starting right now.
The Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Podcast is permeating into your ears with your host, Joey Bear.
And it could be the weeds. Some gardeners try to get all the weeds out of their garden. Other gardeners leave them in their garden. It's really a decision that you need to make. There's benefits to both sides of that. It's just something that you need to figure out what you want to do for your garden.
And Holly Bear.
Canning is a science. When you're canning, you want to make sure you follow the directions, follow the recipe, don't cut corners, don't replace things. It's crucial to you, your health, and your family.
They're professional gardeners with full-time jobs, and they're on the air now.
Welcome to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Podcast, a podcast for the health-conscious organic gardener worldwide. I am your host, Joy Baird. Beside me is my wife, co-host, best friend, and gardening partner,
Holly Baird.
Behind the TWVG microphone here at the WI Garden Media Studios in southeast Wisconsin. The information you're going to hear is important, vital to the life and well-being of your garden. You just may have to tweak some of the dates and times you applied for it for your particular growing area. If you're tuning in for the very first time, we appreciate your attentiveness and downloading it or listening to it online. And you may not know who we are, and Holly's going to tell you a little bit about who we are and what we do. And for those of you who are joining us and have joined us for every podcast episode we've done, thank you. And thank you for sharing it. And I hope you've taken away some information that is beneficial for you in your garden.
Sure. So on our website, first and foremost, we have our videos. We have over 700 how-to videos in regards to gardening, homesteading, being self-sufficient, reusing items, reducing waste, things like that. We also have our podcast, but then we have our quarterly digital magazine, which is free on our website, comes out 4 times a year, and you can download it, read it there, full color, high quality.
So with that being said, and if you have any garden-related questions, be more than happy to answer them by going to the website, thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com, and clicking on the question button on the right-hand side. If you're on a mobile device, you may have to enable your Show More button or scroll all the way down to the bottom of the page. You can also sign up for a weekly email. No spam, 1 email a week with all the content that we do so you don't miss anything, because there are some social media sites out there that limit what you see from us because we don't pay them. It really does happen tremendously. You can also find us on social media. Some of our most active places are on Twitter, as well as Instagram and Facebook. You can search, you can go to our website and find all those links as well. So the show today is going to be a little different. Holly and I are going to talk about some ways that we can pass the time over the winter that's beneficial to you and your family as well as us. And then Mike Novak will be with us with his regular environmental report. And then we're going to have an in-depth interview with Wayne Meador. He's an environmentalist. He's from Alabama, and if you're not familiar with him, he was a guest last year on the program. Well, we felt that we needed to have him back, needed to have him back to on the program because he did something really incredible. He wanted to make people more aware of, and he'll talk about that when he comes on the program, make more aware of what we're doing with the environment that we're living in. So he took his bike and rode it from Alabama all the way to California. And this is documented on his YouTube channel. And we're going to talk about that with him and some of the challenges he faced, some of the, miracles he experienced, and a lot of things in between. So it's going to be a really good interview. So let's talk about it, Holly. Some of the things, it's getting cold. A lot of places in the northern portions of the United States have shut down. Your garden's done outside. For us, here in southeast Wisconsin, we're in a little bubble.
Yeah.
And it's looking for about the next 2 weeks. We're not expecting any frost. Now, we still have peppers producing heavy. We're in the first week of November here. we've got peppers still producing heavy. Tomatoes are lagging off. We have late blight on some of them, and we're going to address that. Other ones, we do have very large tomatoes that are ripening, but on a very slow rate. We still have pole beans that are producing, and we're waiting for the cold or the frost to kill back our 6.5-foot tall yacons. And if you're not familiar with that, there is a tab on our website that is called Yacon, Y-A-C-A-O-N or Y-A-C-O-N. And that we have several videos there of what it is and how to grow it. It's a root crop that's got a lot of beneficial properties to it. And we're waiting to harvest that because we're expecting, based on our research and the way the plants look, we're going to have quite a few yacon roots to eat over the winter, and try to experiment with some cooking and preparation for those. So we're still harvesting.
Right. So even though we're still harvesting, it is November, and
many people's been done for months and kind of resting.
Yeah, and I'm gonna cut myself off pretty soon from the garden. Joey can do whatever he wants. Because it's time for me to focus on it being colder and winter now. So,
are we gonna get tomatoes in December?
I don't really
peppers, tomatoes in December.
I don't really care.
Yeah.
So one thing we're working on is we're learning more about fermentation, and we're working on some different fermentation projects.
And you don't have to have a garden to do this.
No, you don't have to.
And you can do this any time of year.
Well, yeah, you can do this any time of year, but it's fun to play around with it winter because we have the time.
Right.
And I have done many fermentation projects on my own.
You've taken classes on fermentation.
I took one class,
okay.
yeah.
But that's more classes than I have, and
right.
maybe more than some of our listeners have.
Right. So,
what is fermentation? Let's get that so everybody's on the same page.
You might hear fermentation and think beer, or you might hear fermentation and think sauerkraut. Okay, or like kimchi is a fermented food, and it can be anything from something that's been fermented means it's lactofermentation. So it's been aged over time. It has taken on a different state of food property. And then it starts to have a beneficial properties to your stomach, to your lining of your stomach, to your intestines, to your health overall.
Because it's not your body that breaks down the food. It's the stuff,
enzymes.
The enzymes in your gut, which is what the benefits. The fermentation benefits.
Right. So you can, beer is fermented, wine is fermented. Certainly sauerkraut and kimchi are too. But then there's things like most people don't always realize that yogurt is fermented. A lot of people are now drinking kombucha, which is a fermented tea. Kefir or kefir, whether it be water or dairy, that's fermented. So now think about that. These are all beneficial things, and you can do them right in your kitchen counter.
It doesn't really take any special tools.
No, and even a lot of people use raw apple cider vinegar in the glass bottle with the yellow label, and they use that for beneficial properties. And you can make your own vinegar like that, which is what we've started doing, which is how Joey's gotten more into the fermentation aspect of our homesteading, or whatever you want to call it. So one thing we're doing is making pear scrap vinegar or fruit scrap vinegar. And it's pretty simple to do. You just take your fruit scraps, whether it be apples, pears, or pineapples, and you can find the directions online just by doing a search for it.
Now, this is not canning safe vinegar.
Right. You're not...
Unless you go through the situation where you get a testing kit and it tests... at 5% acidity, then you can use it for canning, but you just can't make it and go, okay, I'm going to use it in my canning operation, because it's not going to have the right acidity level like these store-bought, even these raw apple cider vinegars have at the store. They have a certain percentage of vinegar that is required, I think, by general standards,
right,
to have. So
it's just for your safety.
Right, so we're making pear scrap vinegar, which it's very easy to do. It's kind of, it's a way to use up everything of the pears or apples or pineapple, whatever the case may be.
And you'll learn that it's kind of a trial and error. We tried to ferment some sunchokes, and some turned out okay, some didn't. But also, we've had a lot of fluctuating levels in the warmth here, whether it be inside or outside. We've had a kind of a warmer fall.
Ideally, you'd want to probably do it like in a basement where it's more of a universal temperature.
No, you want about room temperature.
Room temperature, okay.
Yeah.
So a basement wouldn't be the ideal for...
No.
Okay. So regular room temperature.
So anyway, this is kind of something we've been doing. I want to get possibly into some sourdough bread baking with the real fermented sourdough, and I'm going to probably work on that over the winter as well.
So another thing we're going to practice or work on, we've done this before, is make our own pasta. Mm-hmm. Now, making your own pasta, do you really need a pasta machine to make pasta?
No, you don't. It's helpful. But
right.
What you can do is you can just roll it out yourself and then slice the noodles how you like them. Or you could, you just roll it out, and then you would just roll it out the pasta dough to about 1/8 to 1/4 inch thickness, and then you slice the noodles, and then you boil them.
Now, with the homemade noodles, we've done this, and I think we've made a video years ago. It's best to just make what you need now. You really don't want to make enough for 4 meals and try to dry it and put it in the fridge and all this. Just make what you need.
Right. So, yeah, when we do this, we made some noshi, which is kind of like a dumpling out of pumpkin and flour. We made some pumpkin noshi the other day. It's really delicious.
If it's fresh.
Right.
I had some that was left in the refrigerator a couple of days, and it was like eating clay.
Oh.
It was not good. You want to eat it fresh.
You didn't tell me that.
I didn't tell you that, no.
Okay.
So when you make it, let it set up in the fridge for about 15-20 minutes, cook it, and it's really good. The longer you let that stuff set, the tougher it is. So that's something that we're going to do in practice. Another thing is homemade pizzas.
Right. So we like to have pizza on, usually Friday nights we have pizza. And, I'm going to admit we buy frozen pizzas. But we have all this canned stuff. And we had some tomatoes the other day.
We still have tomatoes.
We still have tomatoes. But I thought, okay, well, why don't we make some pizza sauce? Some pizza sauce for pizza. And instead of...
What other things would you make pizza sauce for besides pizzas? Okay, go ahead.
So anyway, I was like, you know what, let's make some pizza sauce. And that's what we did. So now we have 6 pints of pizza sauce.
We have 9 pints. 9 pints. We did a whole batch, 9 pints.
That's
yeah.
right.
So equivalently... a pint,
that'll make us 18 pizzas.
Right. Two pint is enough for 2 normal, regular size pizzas. Mm-hmm. And we're going to, buy in bulk the pepperoni, the big sticks of sausage pepperoni.
Right.
And then, try to look for deals on the other toppings.
And we also like Hawaiian pizza, so I know at...
we can use pear sauce for the topping for that.
And at the big warehouse store, I can get a good deal on some Canadian bacon and stuff. So, and we have that fake pineapple that we made.
The zucchini pineapple recipe, which is on the website. You take zucchini and infuse it with pineapple juice. You can it up. It's great. You wouldn't think...
so now we just need a cow to make the cheese. Anyway, so the cheese is minimal. We live in Wisconsin, so it's not too bad. Anyway, so we got that. We got the pizza, the pasta, growing indoors.
We're going to grow indoors. We are fortunate enough, and we talked about this on a couple of previous episodes, that we are working with Eco Garden House. It's a series that we're growing indoors. It's an all-inclusive unit, irrigation lights, basically a miniature greenhouse indoors, irrigation system, thermostat, fans, and it's doing very well. Better than what we expected, because you see these things, you're like, is this thing really going to work? It really does work. There is a price to it. It does cost, if that's something you're wanting to...
But it's an investment.
It's an investment, especially if you have nowhere to grow. And this is your sole purpose of growing. You can produce a lot of stuff in this little
yeah, it's amazing.
And now if you don't want to go to that expense, we talked about this in a previous episodes, you can grow greens on your windowsill. You can get an LED light, a grow light, and grow relatively decent things underneath that grow light.
And actually I had somebody in a group on Facebook the other day ask about growing herbs indoors, and I said it's super simple. You don't need much. You just need a window, preferably a south-facing window or an east or west-facing window. You just need your containers. You need some good potting soil or compost.
And you got to remember to water them.
But you can grow whatever you want indoors with the herbs, pretty much.
Yeah, 3 to 5 hours of light. Direct light, if that. They will work in partial shade. Low light conditions, they will grow really well.
But it's not terrible, and they were like, I didn't realize it was that easy. And that's the thing, is you can grow a lot of stuff with very minimal equipment.
And think about herbs as being, you go to the grocery store and you pay like $17 for 4 leaves of basil.
It's not that much.
Well, it's very expensive.
It is.
Compared to, we probably got in the windowsill and in the Eco Garden House, we probably got $75 worth of basil.
Maybe I should pack it up.
And send it, wholesale it out.
Sell it outside the grocery store.
Yeah, half price.
Is there basil on your list, ma'am?
Yeah.
You're
making pizzas? And that's something else we've already got the herbs for the pizza.
Yeah.
So really we need, we eat meat. That's not a mystery. So we need, some sausage, some pepperoni. We've got the pasta sauce, the dough. We've got plenty of flour. We can make our own dough. Mm-hmm. What is it? Not wheat flour, not vegan. Is it? What does the wheat have on it that people gluten? We have gluten-free flour.
Yeah, we can make either gluten flour. Yeah. I just picked up a bag of unbleached. No, it's not. It's got gluten.
Okay,
but I got that for baking and stuff.
Right. So that's just some of the things that we're going to exercise over what we was thinking was going to be a long, cold winter. Now they're projecting, based on who you believe and how you believe it, that February and March are supposed to be extremely bad months because this winter vortex is supposed to shift south. Polar vortex is supposed to shift south. So maybe we're making it up on this end here, and we're still warm through November, and then we're going to get hard.
Better soak it up now.
And now some of you who garden in the south, your guys are going to start seeds here in about a month or two for tomatoes and peppers. So you guys, we don't start that until about March. I think Texas is putting them in, South Texas at least, February, March.
Right.
I believe. I don't think I'm too far off on that because you guys have 2 growing seasons down there for them in most instances. But that's some of the things that we're going to do, benefit from all of this warm weather and the phenomenal garden success that we've had with counting 290 jars of canned goods and still making them, still processing jars of tomatoes and peppers and pears and all of that, pumpkin, that we're going to use up and benefit and save money and enjoy and be healthier over the winter months. Right after the break, our good friend from Q4 Radio from Chicago, Illinois, will be with us, Mike Novak, right after this.
It's all about the soil at ManureT.com. With their grass-fed, antibiotic, and growth hormone-free cattle and horses, owner Annie Haven puts the quality in her premium soil conditioner. 100% organic and natural, whether feeding your flowers or veggies, indoors or out, you can grow organically with confidence. To purchase authentic Haven brand Manure Tea, small orders or large, go to ManureT.com. Always free shipping. A gardener knows that the key to a good plant is its roots. With poor roots, the end result is not good. Conventional pots and trays cause roots to wrap around and become root-bound. Then you try to unwrap the roots at the time of planting, hoping not to break them. But never again with the Root Maker, a non-chemical innovation that naturally air prunes roots to create more vigorous roots. Never a root-bound plant again. Whether trees, flowers, or edibles, home garden or commercial grower, more roots means healthier, more productive plants. To get your own, visit rootmaker.com.
At dollarseed.com, all of our seeds are only $1 a pack. And we have online resources that teach you all about the rewarding hobby of growing your own plants, flowers, herbs, and vegetables. Imagine the joy you'll feel when your children actually help you harvest your first garden crop, or the pride of knowing you'll never need a florist again. Visit dollarseed.com and grow a little magic of your own for just $1. Dollarseed.com. What could be healthier?
This is Jeff Radke from the Lost Skills Podcast. You can listen to me at lostskillspodcast.com. Now back to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Podcast with Holly and Joey Baird.
Welcome back to the program. If you want to check out our sponsors on the podcast, have on our website at thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com. Feel free to support them as they support us.
And those links will also be in the show notes below. Well, each program, our good friend from Q4 Radio in Chicago, Illinois joins us. Now, if you want to listen to his show, he'll tell you how to do that. But we also found another neat little thing that we were able to listen to his show on your mobile device. You go to your app store and you search for Simply Radio or Simple Radio app. It's free. You can buy the premium package where it doesn't have the ads, but the ads are not a nuisance. And you search for Q4 Radio, and it pops up, or your local favorite radio station. It works really well. And Mike Novak is going to tell us probably something we already should have known, but we were too occupied or by other nonsense that we didn't pay attention to it. So here is Mike Novak.
And now to a man who's not afraid to tell you what you need to do to keep the planet he lives on clean.
Take your food food scraps out to your compost pile. Screw in a compact fluorescent light bulb. Turn on a window fan instead of an air conditioner. Low flow, baby. Shower heads and toilets. Take one napkin at Starbucks instead of 6.
Mike Novak.
Welcome to another installment of the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Environmental Report. I'm Mike Novak, and you can hear me live each Sunday morning from 9 to 11 a.m. Central Time on Q4 Radio, which streams at q4.org, and on my own Facebook page, The Mike Novak Show. You can also get my podcasts at mikenovak.net. Well, this is my final report for 2016. So, first of all, I want to thank Holly and Joey Baird for asking me to present these bits of environmental wisdom. I love what they're doing with the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener. Their message is pretty clear. Grow your own food. Now, if you listen to these podcasts regularly, you're obviously not the kind of people who think that growing edibles is some kind of fad. Good for you. I have a saying, good gardeners are good environmentalists. So, what does that mean? Well, it means that whether you're growing eggplant or echinacea or even lawns, you think about the kind of fertilizers you use, you think about how you treat insects and diseases, you think about the biology of the soil. The biology of the soil. Who thinks about that? Well, if you're a good gardener, you do. You're smart. You do your homework. You read and follow label directions regardless of the product you're using. Most of all, you let Mom Nature do as much as she can for your garden. You don't bag leaves and let the city throw them into a landfill. You leave them on your garden beds. If you don't eat all of the vegetables you grow or buy, you compost them along with your yard waste. And then you take that wonderful compost and you put it right back into your soil to create even more productive biology. And even if you like your lawn, you do that right by ignoring the brainwashing on TV from the big fertilizer companies. You know who I'm talking about. And you feed your turf by simply leaving the grass clippings where you cut them. That's what I mean when I say that good gardeners are good environmentalists. I sure hope you're one of those people. Stay thirsty for knowledge, my friends. Go green or go home.
Thank you, Mike, for that. And we appreciate you coming on the program every episode this year, all 18 of them, and sharing your knowledge about how we can be better stewards of the earth. And when we don't do something right, Mike's not afraid to tell us about what we've done wrong.
All right.
So what we're going to do here, normally this time of the program, we take your questions and we give you our answers. But since we have Wayne Meador coming on the program, and we're going to have an intensive and lengthy conversation with him about his trip from Alabama.
Not intensive, extensive.
Extensive.
It's a really good. It's a really good interview.
We're going to have a good interview with him. We're going to take a break right now. Fit in the commercials, fit in our ads, those who are supporting this program, and then we'll have an uninterrupted interview with Wayne Meador right after this. No gardener wants to walk through a garden with dull, droopy flowers. You want your flowers to be big, bright, and beautiful. With Age-Old Bloom, you can have flowers that will achieve this. Bloom supplies flowers with a high level of phosphorus and encourages flowers to bloom big, bright, and beautiful. Visit ageold.com for more information on Age-Old products, Bloom, and our suppliers.
Do Do you want your next raised beds to be easy, functional, and beautiful? The Embrace helps you create the garden you've always wanted. Finally, raised beds that everyone can assemble and enjoy. No tools needed. Just slide any lumber into the Embrace corner, fill with your favorite soil mix, and you're ready to plant. Made from 100% recycled steel right here in the USA. And a portion of every sale helps to build school and community gardens all across the country. Let the Embrace help you create your next raised bed. Grow beautifully with the Embrace. Available at local garden centers and online at artofthegarden.net.
Looking for a fast-acting, non-toxic weed killer for your organic garden? One that works in cool and cloudy conditions as low as 40 degrees and is highly biodegradable with visible results in less than 2 hours? Then look no more. Avenger Weed Killer has it all and more. Made from oranges, Avenger is highly effective, easy to use, and has a pleasant citrus aroma. It is OMRI listed and approved for organic gardeners under the USDA's National Organic Program. Avenger Weed Killer is a choice for organic gardeners and homeowners who are looking for an effective, safe way to control unwanted weeds. Available in ready-to-use sprays and concentrate, ask your local lawn and garden supplier for Avenger Weed Killer. For more information and a list of suppliers, visit AvengerOrganics.com. Avenger Weed Killer, eco-friendly, deadly to weeds.
Now back to two gardeners that understand where you're coming from.
Are you a lazy gardener? It's okay if you're a lazy gardener.
Joey and Holly Bear.
We want to welcome you back to the program and go ahead and check out our sponsors for our podcast. You can view that on the podcast tab at WisconsinVegetableGardener.com. Please support them as they support us.
Well, let's head down to Alabama and bring in our next guest. He is passionate about advancing the sustainability of the human race. He knows something radical has to be done, and it is time to do it in differently, starting a conversation in a new way. It's time to change the way we think and collaborate together. He shares his journey on his YouTube channel and his website, aworldforchange.com. And in 2015, Wayne Meador rode his bike from his home in Alabama to San Francisco, California, to bring awareness to advancing the sustainability of the human race and showing that we need to do something different than what we're doing now. We are excited to have him back on the program to talk about his journey. Welcome to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Podcast, Wayne Meador.
Hi there. How you doing?
We are doing great. We appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to join us and to talk about this magnificent journey that you took across the United States.
Yeah, it was magnificent, that's for sure. And the intro that you described is really what I set out to do. I didn't know exactly how it would pan out in the big picture, but that was the underlying goal. And boy, it was an enlightening experience, I think, not only for me, but for those that followed me on a daily basis.
Right. So now many people might ask, you were trying to raise awareness of the advancement of the sustainability of the human race, and you did this by bike ride. Why didn't you want to do maybe contact some newspapers or try to get on the news or something as opposed to the bike ride?
Yeah, well, we did reach out to newspapers and other media sources, and frankly, it was a bit frustrating with the kind of results that we were able to achieve. I felt like many times that the story just didn't resonate with some of the reporters. Therefore, we didn't get on the news as much as we'd like to have. And that being said, whether or not you were reaching out to them to talk about the bike ride or to shift mindset in some other way about the topic of sustainability, one of the things that kept resurfacing is the fact that it's not a dramatic topic. It's not a topic that sends shock and awe into people's hearts. It's not this incredibly bad scenario in Ferguson, Missouri that wanted to monopolize the media. So because of that, honestly, the resignation, we just didn't get enough publicity through those media channels, and that's why we decided guerrilla marketing was the way to go. And when I say guerrilla marketing, I'm talking about meeting with people on a daily basis throughout the bike ride, connecting with them in real time, in real life, and then transferring that into a social media platform, typically through Facebook and through Instagram, and then continuing that conversation and building from that, and then asking those same that same subset of people who we'd guerrilla marketed to, for lack of better terms, then they became much more receptive and was the perfect litmus test of what's really going on in North America.
And that's sad because, we've kind of had that same response to some of the local media around here. Unless you killed somebody or you won the lottery, they really don't want to know anything about you because it's not important. Everybody says, we want to hear good stories about on the news, and all we hear is doom and gloom. And when we have a good story, like for you or for us, they're really not interested.
Right. So I don't know how to solve that problem. And I'm going to leave it up to the listeners to help to solve that problem. I'd love to hear some feedback, so please send me an email or comment on this podcast, and let's collaborate together, because that's really what I set out to do, was to collaborate. And it became a very successful venture in the long run, not financially, but for the purpose of what I set out to do, and that is to collaborate in a new way.
Now, Wayne, you're not a professional bike rider, and whenever you decided to do this, what was the mindset? How did you decide to train to take this a massive journey across the United States? It had to be kind of an overwhelming thought at the beginning of this.
Well, yes and no. I mean, it was an overwhelming thought, but when I decided to set my mind to something and make that decision, then it's just going to happen. And so I went forward with that intention. And you may or may not know, I left in, it was the first week of July. I'm getting all my dates messed up here in my head, but I'm sorry, it would have been the 1st of June. And the second day, I'm sorry, it was June, July. The second day on my trip, I had an accident. It was a fairly major accident. It put me in the hospital for a few hours. I recovered, didn't have any broken bones, but I did recover, and then people can go back to my Instagram. It's at A World for Change, the number 4, and look at pictures. But that didn't stop me. As a matter of fact, it reinforced the need and the necessity for doing something like this, and the fact that I don't have previous experience cycling long distance treks or even cycling as a whole. Is what really helped me to solidify in my mind that I was the right guy to be doing what I was doing at the present time. And not only did I not have experience cycling, where my experience did come in and why I was one of the right guys, because I have experience with gardening, with permaculture, with connecting with people, with interviewing people, just like what you guys are doing now. I just happened to use a bicycle as my mode of transportation to connect with those people. And let me talk about why. One of the reasons why is it's affordable. The second reason why is it's sustainable. There's no fossil fuels involved. I pulled solar panels with me behind me on a trailer, and I powered all of the recording, the video, and the audio. All was powered with the power of the sun, minus a few times. And then thirdly is if there's many other modes of transportation. You can go across in a car, or you could walk across the country. But those modes don't allow me as an individual to be quite as approachable. So if I would walk up to a homestead, for example, I might be looked at in more of an off-putting way than pulling up on a bicycle with a rig that was thought out and planned out with an intention of doing something. In the same way with a car or a truck. And not to mention the fact that the feat in itself of doing a solo ride that was self-supported and recording it using not only just recording it, but using solar energy, that's just never been done before. So that's why I set out to do it in this manner.
Right. Yeah, I remember you having the accident, and then it's good that you decided to get back to it. Not that saying you wouldn't, but some people may not have. So now, how did you plan your route? What was your decision on where you were going to go, and how did you decide what roads you were going to take?
Yeah, it's a good question. Well, I didn't decide everything ahead of time. I knew that I wanted to go through some specific towns and stop at a couple of specific waypoints. And one of those waypoints was Missouri Wind and Solar, who is owned and operated by Jeff Hartman and the Hartman family. And they were a sponsor of the trip. They provided the equipment for me that allowed me to use solar energy for this whole trip in the first place. So I stopped there in southern Missouri, close to Springfield. And then I wanted to stop with a set of friends of mine who they're really into outdoors activities and hiking and trailing and et cetera. And so I stopped there in Colorado, in Colorado Springs. But from there, I really didn't have any other set place that I wanted to go, and I really simply wanted to connect with people in real time, and then as I connected with them throughout the trek, whether it was through an email because they heard that I was coming through, or if it was physically reaching out to them or talking with a friend of theirs, and they say, well, 30 miles ahead is an organic farm you need to go tour and film, let me connect you. Those are the kinds of things that happen, and it happened on a daily basis, multiple times a day. I would run into people who would connect me with somebody else who was just integral in telling the story and achieving the story that needed to be told. And I really didn't know how that story was going to play out. So it was, again, back to the enlightening experience. It was incredible. Really the spiritual journey that I was able to go on as a result of this. And I hope that the short film that I'm working on to portray it will articulate that well. We'll see.
Right, and you bring this up, you in multiple episodes on your YouTube channel and on the website, worldforchange.com, you never said that you were concerned about where you were going to end up. You were just going to go, and whatever happened. And you had a lot of faith, and you kind of, without saying it, you kind of knew that God was going to put people in the places that need to be put in, and you were going to run into them. So you had money, you had food, you had shelter for that next night, and it happened day after day after day. These right people just happened to be in the right spot at the right time.
Yeah, that's right. And I got really good at what I would say is just listening to my gut. I'm listening to God. You can call God whatever you want in your life. For me, He's a higher being, and we'll leave it at that. But I really just had to have faith in God and the universe that if I was listening and super present in the moment, that those things would happen. I would be taken care of. And it's not because I wanted to just put myself out there. I didn't leave with no money, so to speak. I had some things prepared ahead of time, and I had well thought out the equipment that I needed to take with me. But there were many times, time and time again, where I was just running on pennies, and it was psychologically challenging, not only for me to just deal with that fact, but for me to continue to move ahead, knowing that if I was doing the will or being present with the universe at that moment, that it would provide for me and that God would provide. And I have been blown away by that experience. And hopefully the viewers or the listeners who watch this and go to my YouTube channel will get a sense of how that materialized. And I know that in time when the short film's done, they'll really get a good grasp of that.
Right, and you would just go to a gas station, and I forget which episode this was, and somebody came up and he said, "Hey, I'm a cyclist. Where are you cycling to?" And within a few minutes, he gave you his address and said, "Hey, you can spend the night at my place and get a good night's sleep." And other instances, they said, "Hey, I've got a motorhome behind the house here. You can stay there." Just one after another after another. There is still a lot of good people in this country, even though the news may not portray that.
Right, and I would love to help the news to portray that. And we as citizens need to demand that the news doesn't just show us the bad. And I think we're doing that with new forms of new media like YouTube and like podcasts. We have the ability to take back control of that. And we also have the ability to do that with who we vote for and how we allow Washington to manage our issues. And so I'll leave it at that.
Right. So, what did your friends, family, loved ones, what did they think about this when you said, I'm going to do this, I'm going to take this journey, I'm going to go across the country on my bike for, to raise awareness about sustainability?
Well, the kids thought it was the greatest thing ever. But I wouldn't say that everybody in my immediate circle, my immediate family circle, truly understood what I was setting out to do. And even if you were to ask my parents today, I respect them greatly, but I don't listen to them on every area of my life. But they would still tell you that they just don't quite grasp what I was trying to portray with this trip. But I can tell you, everybody who got involved and everybody who watched on a regular basis and communicated with me on a regular basis, they did get it. And I can easily say hundreds of positive comments through social media, positive emails, comments on the website, altogether hundreds of these comments of individuals who just said that, in a nutshell, just said that we're so grateful that you have helped us to see the good hearts that are still in America and the people that are still trying to do good and still pushing forward to build a sustainable future. And this used to be comments from people on the left or the right. And when I would run into people, so people would immediately assume that I would take a political stance on to the left simply because of the word sustainability, or simply because I had a mindset to think about living a greener lifestyle. But that's the stereotypical challenge that we face in North America, in America, because of the way politics has polarized our issues, and working in conjunction with the church, where they should be separate, has created this massive challenge. And if we would all take a step back and think about the big picture and not just think about our own little family, but if we think about the world as a whole and where it's going, we would make decisions that were much more inclusive. But that goes back to what I initially said in the very beginning of this podcast, and that is people don't want to have to think about topics unless they're forced to. And I'll leave it there.
Now, one of the physical and maybe psychological problems you had on a number of bases was tires blowing out, and I can't imagine how frustrating this can be. You're getting in a rhythm, and you continually have to be your own little pit crew. You didn't have a car behind you like you see in the Tour de France, where if a tire blows out, they give you another bike. This was all on you every single day, all day long.
And it was challenging. I think at one point I blew out, I think I had 7 flats in 3 or 4 days. I think it was 7 flats in 3 days. One of them was the trailer tire, and then the rest of them were the bike tires. And it was all through Missouri, down in the southern part of Missouri, as I was coming across the river from Mississippi. But I'll tell you, once I was able to get to Springfield, in the meantime, I'd reached out to several people through social media. Again, this is the power of social media, asking for different ideas on how I could rectify the problem, and ended up finding a company called Clean Motion, and they have a product called Rhinodillo for the tires. And basically, you just line the outside of the inner tube between the inner tube and the tire, the rubber tire, and it keeps me from hitting flats. So from then on, I don't think I had another flat that I had to address. So the rest of the trip was just incredible when it came to not having to do repairs.
What would you say was your absolute most favorite part of the trip? Something that just you know you're not going to ever forget for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I've done a lot of thinking on that. It's without a doubt Nevada and Utah in the desert. There's no question there that was my most favorite part. And I would say out of all of that, my most favorite part was a little section of road. It was about 70 miles long. You can go to my YouTube channel and you can watch the video of me riding Burr Trail, B-U-R-R, I think, Burr Trail in Utah. Basically what I did is I came past, from the east, heading west, past Natural Bridges State Park in Utah, down in the southern, southeast corner of Utah, and came up to Lake Powell. And Lake Powell is a large water reservoir that I believe Las Vegas pulls off of for their water, and it's on the Colorado River. And I ferried across Lake Powell. There's a video of that. But then within 2 days, I left Lake Powell, and I did a 70-mile stint. It took me 2 days to do, and about 20 miles of that was gravel. And if you're not into cycling or riding motorcycles or anything like that, you can still take your car, preferably a four-wheel drive, and you can do this trip. And it goes up past the Grand Staircase in Escalante, which I believe President Obama has something to do with creating this national monument and preserving the mineral rights so that the people in the area don't go and mine it. But that section was incredible, and I don't know if you remember the night where there was a blood moon and a lunar eclipse, I believe, all in the same night back in September.
Yeah.
That is the exact night that I was camping on the side of the mountain on the Burr Trail by myself, not a soul in sight for more than 45 miles in either direction, and I just laid in the hammock and looked up at the moon and watched the sunset, and then inherently the next morning the sunrise, and it was absolutely incredible. I'll never forget that. There's no way that my video and photos can do that any justice. And the hammock was hanging on the side of the mountain, and I could just look down across the valley, or canyons rather, and see for miles, 60, 80, 100 miles, maybe even more in one direction. And it was, there's no words that can describe how incredible that was. And that was a personal experience that I hoped to be able to share with people, and I think I did fairly well on the Riding the Burr Trail video on my YouTube channel. There's a playlist for a Trek for Change, but there's absolutely still no way that anybody else could be able to experience that without doing it themselves.
And I want to reiterate to the listeners, you didn't say, okay, I'm leaving Alabama X date and I got to be in San Francisco X date. It was kind of a day-by-day thing, as you talked about. And if you were at a location where something was going on that was a dedication to, let's say, solar panels for a school, you took time out to go to that because that was a very important portion of this whole journey. It wasn't a race. It was making connections and making awareness of this journey.
Yeah, that's right. So I think I didn't set out to ride every single mile across the country. I think I had 3 rides. Somebody gave me a ride 3 different times for the equivalent of basically 3 days worth of riding. But I always did that in a bargain to get something else. So, for example, that solar dedication ceremony, for me to be able to see that, I had to get a ride to go to see that. It was just too far for me to go on a bike. But at that same time, then the individual who I had stayed with the previous night in Modena, Utah, I mean, there's I would guess less than 15 people that live in this little town beside the railroad tracks. It was just incredible. But as we went into Nevada, went to this dedication ceremony, there's also a state park that this guy who's over 80 years old had been going to since he was a kid. And it's called Cathedral Gorge State Park. And you can go back and look at pictures on my you can find me on Facebook or on Instagram, and you can go back and look at pictures of Cathedral Gorge State Park. But I would have never seen that or the dedication ceremony had I not been given a ride because of the added miles. And then other times I was in Rachel, Nevada. Now, this is in the middle of the extraterrestrial highway, and I met up with this old guy. It was his 79th birthday, if I remember correctly. His name was Cowboy Bill. Been living there in that area all his life, about 100 miles to the north. And he liked to go rock hounding. And so we went up to the old Timpa Ute gold mine, which is in the same valley that up at the edge of the valley or on the mountainside where Rachel, Nevada is. So this is all an area where Area 51 is just north of Area 51. And so in exchange for getting to spend a day with him and go up there to the gold mine, or to the mine, mineral mine rather, I negotiated with the people who owned the Little Ailey Inn, who were so kind, and they gave me a place to stay for the nights that I was there, and even helped me out some with food for free. I just didn't ask for it at all, but it happened. They gave me a ride, which was, instead of riding the day that I went up to the mine, I stayed there, and then they gave me a ride the next day so I wouldn't lose miles. And it was really because I was starting to think, it's getting cooler in the evenings and at night, and I need to be pushing it to get into San Francisco or get through the Sierra Nevadas before we get some seriously inclement weather. And I still had some pretty challenging weather in Yosemite. It rained and sleeted for over 3 hours during my ride down through Yosemite. I think it was more like 4 hours, and it even hailed some. And if you know anything about Yosemite, there's not a lot of space on the roads in a car, and you're trying to do that with heavy rain and sleet and some hail, and do that on two wheels with the bike. It just wasn't the most pleasant experience, but it was something that, again, I'll never forget. It's hard to separate out those experiences, really.
Well, Wayne, we greatly appreciate you taking time out of your day to join us and share and revisit the journey that you had a year ago going across the country. For people who want to revisit that and keep in touch with you with your new projects, what's the website? What's the best way they can get a hold of you?
The website's workforchange.com, and you can always send me a private personal email. That's fine as well, but you can do that through the website. I'm very active on Instagram and with the Instagram following, and that is at A World for Change, the number 4. But I want to leave you with this before we go. Do we have time for me to throw in one more thing here?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure that the listeners hear this. I didn't know what I was going to find when I set out. I didn't know what the answer to sustainability or to being sustainable as a human race is. And I'm not sure that I fully know it now. But the one thing that became apparent time and time again, over and over again, in these instances that we've been talking about, and I have an interview with the mayor of Greensburg, Kansas. But by the way, that was another waypoint that I wanted to include. So they run on all wind power. The whole town runs on their own wind system. So that was really interesting. But he said in the interview that it's not about whether or not we have certain government policies or whether or not we power our towns off of wind, or if we invest in solar, or if we grow all of our own food. All of those things are nice, but if we don't have love for each other and we don't care for each other, and then I'm paraphrasing, but if we don't care and love each other unconditionally, then we won't be sustainable as a human race. And that really hits home, especially now with things that are going on over in Syria and other parts of the world. And it also resonated with me. From that moment on, I started to think about it from that perspective and realize and understand that when we do have love for each other, when we care about other fellow human beings just as much as what we care about ourselves, then we make the right choices. We elect the right people in government. We bring in the right kinds of energy policies. We focus on doing things that are more sustainable because of that love for each other. And that, I think, is the answer to being sustainable.
Absolutely. Thank you, Wayne. The Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Podcast is a production of the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com for the health-conscious organic gardener worldwide and distributed in association with WI Garden Media.